So a warm welcome to this short presentation which links in with the ITERS course, and we're going to be looking today at item 4, which is displays for children. And what we're going to be doing is just thinking about what is good practice when we are designing and presenting displays in the early years classroom, specifically for toddlers, around displays. So let's get started. So this slide is just some good practice guidelines really on developing displays in early years. So first of all, displays should be interactive. They should be educative and informative. So they should teach us something. They should inform us about something. Displays could link to classroom learning, such as the theme of the week or the theme of the month. Displays could link to a topic or a project that you've been working on in the classroom. It could link to a festival or a cultural event like the Gay Pride or Diwali or Tu Bishvat or something like that. And displays in and around the early years classroom should include photos of children and their families, and it can be photos that children bring in from home, photos that you ask families to provide for you. Again, it could be on a theme or it could just be a family photos, and there should also be photos of children at work and play in the early years setting. And displays should be easily be able to be seen by children. So there should be a good number of displays that are actually at children's eye level, that children can see. And there should also be displays on your display boards, which will probably be higher up. And those displays should be clear, big, bold, so that even if you're not at eye contact with them, you can clearly see what's in them and what's on it. Okay, so that's just some kind of good practice guidelines which steer you in the right direction for thinking about displays in the early years setting. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to look at the ITERS quality assurance framework, which ITERS it's all about making judgments on how good an early years setting is. So let's start. We're going to start off by looking at inadequate. So on the ITERS rating scale, that would be a number 1. We're looking at what is inadequate when we're thinking about displays in the early years classroom. So it would be inadequate to have no pictures or other materials that are displayed for children. That would definitely be graded as inadequate. Inappropriate materials for the main age group. So for example, it might be that the children are 1 year old, but the displays that are in and around the classroom are actually designed for older children, posters, too much writing, etc. Or the displays include frightening images for the children of the age that the displays are aimed for. And staff do not talk to the children about the displayed materials. So think about your classroom and your setting. If any of these things are happening in your classroom, there's no pictures, inappropriate materials, or staff don't talk to the children about the materials that are displayed, then your setting, your classroom would come out as inadequate on the ITERS rating. Okay, so let's go on then and look at what a minimal level of achievement would be in order to be kind of okay in your classroom. So ITERS at minimum level, which would be level 3, would say at least 3 colourful pictures or other materials where children can easily see them. So at least 3 things displayed in the room in order to meet that minimum level. Content displayed is appropriate for the age group. So, for example, it's items that are interesting or familiar to the children who are in the room. Some children's artwork is displayed. That would meet the minimal requirement. Almost all displayed pictures are within reach of the children, are protected from being torn. So if there's children's artwork or posters or displays that adults have created that the children can reach, that they are actually protected from being torn. So they might be in plastic wallets, they might be behind a perspex screen, they might be made of laminated, they might be made of material that won't tear, or just out of children's reach. Okay, let's go on to see the next standard. What would be good? So in order to meet good in the ITERS, you must meet all of the minimal. So there must be at least 3 colourful pictures, for example. The content must be age appropriate. There must be some artwork of children displayed, and the artwork that's within the children's reach must be protected from being torn. That must happen to get minimal, but it must also happen to get good in addition to these things. So a good level of displays according to the ITERS rating scale would include the minimal plus these things. There are many colourful, simple pictures, posters or photographs of children throughout the space, including at children's eye level and higher. There also should be evidence that the display items are changed regularly. Now, what does regularly mean? I always say that at least once a month to once every 6 weeks, all the displays within a classroom should be renewed and refreshed. There might be some displays that you would have for the entire year. For example, a birthday display of when all the children's birthdays are. That would be absolutely fine to have that kind of display for the whole year. But there would be other displays, for example, of children's artwork, or maybe a display board that says things that we learned this week, with photographs and artwork of things that you've done that week in the classroom. Those kind of things should be changed and updated on a regular basis, and there should be evidence of that in the classroom. So, for example, if it's now summer and you still have a display up about autumn, that would suggest that the displays are not changed on a regular basis, and they should be. So you need to meet that requirement in order to come out as a good rating in the ITERS scale for item 4, which is displays. Many items are displayed where children can easily see them, and some are within easy reach. And this is really important. Staff point out and talk to the children about the displayed materials. So it's not something that's just there in the background, but it is something that staff on a regular basis make reference to, talk about, have conversations from. And I always think that it's really useful on children's displays to have questions. What do you wear when it's cold? ? With your display of winter clothing on the wall or on the display table. And that is a really good way in for staff every time they pass it, when they're talking with children, to read out the question and encourage and support discussion about the display. Okay, let's see what an excellent, a level 7. So we've just been looking at a level 5, good. What would a level 7 include? So a level 7 would include those things at level 3, which would be minimal, those things at a level 5, which are good. And in addition to those, these things as well would make your classroom an excellent grading for item 4 in ITERS, which is displays. So photographs of children in the group, their families, pets, or other familiar places are displayed and can be seen by the children. There are 3D hanging objects, mobiles, maybe models that you've made, maybe homemade mobiles that you've made, could even be mobiles with photographs on, or could be anything, but things that are in the environment displayed, that are hanging, that will attract children's attention and can promote discussion and provide sensory experiences. And then the third thing to get an excellent rating within this scale would be that staff provide extended talk about the display material. So not just pointing things out, but extend and develop conversations and talking about the things that are displayed. So for example, it might be on the winter display that you've got up there, you might be talking about extending that to talk about snow and talking about the weather today, and it was colder yesterday than it was today, and all of those kind of comments, conversations, and extended talk can come from those displays that are in and around the early years classroom. Okay, so let's go on then to look at a little case study. And this is the policy at Rainbow Nursery. So the policy at Rainbow says that the displays in the classroom should include inspirational quotes for staff. They should be around the classroom, like a person's learning never ends. These kind of inspirational quotes from Einstein, from famous philosophers, from children's theorists, behavior rules that are relevant to the children. So for example, in the book area, it might be, you might have a rule that's displayed in the book area that says, we always put books back after we've used them. In the snack area, you might have a rule displayed that says, we always eat sitting at the table. On the circle time rug, you might have a picture of ears and say, we use our ears when it's listening time. So you might have, in the Rainbow policy, it states that there should be behaviour rules that are relevant to the children displayed and around the classroom. That could be with photographs, for example. So for example, in the toileting area or the nappy changing area, you might have a display that says, now wash your hands, with a picture of some of the children from the class washing their hands. That would be a fabulous display. Children's work and children's creations, yes, that should definitely be displayed, and that's there in the policy. At Rainbow, we say there should be an alphabet and a number line displayed in every classroom. There should be family photos displayed in every classroom. There should be a birthday board, and that is a board that has the months of the year and the dates of every child's birthday on that board. That might be with photographs of the children, but not necessarily. It could just be their names. And there should be photos of the children at work and play around the classroom. And it's always great to laminate those things so they can be touched and not torn. And that's it. That brings us to the end of this short presentation on the ITERS item 4, displays for children. So we've talked about the inadequate. So if you're doing these things, your rating scale would be inadequate. If you're doing these things, your rating scale would be minimal. If you're doing the minimal plus these things, your rating scale would be good, which comes out at a number 5. And if you're also doing these things under excellent, which is number 7, then that would be your rating scale. And of course, if you're doing half of these things, for example, you've got photos and mobiles, but staff don't really provide extended talk, then you would come out at a 6 because you've met all of the 5 criteria and half of the 7 criteria. So you would come out at a 6 on the quality rating scale in that case. I hope this has been useful and inspiring for you to go back to your classrooms, have a think about where your classroom currently is on the scale. What are we currently doing? Are we currently meeting the minimal, the good, the excellent? And what if we're not already excellent, what can we be doing in the classroom to transform our displays to transition into that space of excellence?